Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. My guests today are Mark Freebery, MSL Regional Director East, and Rachel Pater, Community Medical Liaison Director West with Syneos Health. And we discuss the importance of investing in people and putting interpersonal relationships first and business second. So it's an awesome conversation. I think you guys are going to love this. Don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn. And join us for MSL Talk Live, which is typically the first Tuesday of every month at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's a live panel discussion, and it's on LinkedIn Live. Look for the announcements on my LinkedIn feed. Welcome to MSL Talk with Tom Caravela, a podcast specifically designed for MSLs and all things field medical. All right. So Rachel and Mark, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having us, Tom.
So excited. So guys, just, I like to give a little background, a little history. So funny thing is I met Mark like a year ago, maybe over a year ago at the MSL Society meeting. We had this idea of doing this podcast and a couple of things kind of came into our way. It never happened. And then I met Rachel and Mark this year again at the MSL Society meeting, and we just got to talking and we were like, all right, we got to do something. And this is an awesome idea. It's an awesome topic. You guys are going to love this. So I am excited to have you guys both here. It's many years in the making, but we made it. So why don't we start with introductions, just brief intro. So Rachel, why don't you go first?
Rachel Pater, have a team of 9 MSLs who I manage. They are across the country. I've had the privilege of leading this team for almost 5 years, and happy to be here with you today, Tom.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me. And Mark?
Yeah. Hi, Mark Freebery. Live in Delaware. Some of you know that state. But yeah, we have actually an MSL team of 14, but it's split in half, and I manage 7 of them, and my colleague manages the other 7. And I've been actually managing this team only for a little over 6 months right now.
Got you. Awesome. And guys, just so you know, this episode is actually sponsored by Syneos Health. So both Mark and Rachel obviously are both at Syneos, great sponsor of ours. And if you're not familiar, Syneos Health is a leading, fully integrated biopharmaceutical solutions organization built to accelerate customer success. So they translate unique clinical, medical affairs, and commercial insights into outcomes to address modern market realities. So together, they share insights, use the latest technologies, and apply advanced business practices to speed customer delivery of important therapies to patients. Syneos supports a diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture. To learn more about how they are shortening the distance from lab to life, visit syneoshealth.com. So thank you guys. And let's just jump right into this. So the topic is we're going to talk about people. People first, business second. So before we get into that, let's talk about, I'd love to hear a little bit about your guys's, I know that that's not grammatically correct, but your philosophies with your team, and what are the key ingredients in creating, maintaining, and fostering the right environment. So Mark, let's start with you.
Yeah, Tom, I really feel, what pops out at me at first is trust. And I really feel you have to trust your team, and they need to trust you as a manager. We hire these people because they're smart, they're good, they know what they're doing out there, but that doesn't always resonate into a good team culture. So you have to trust them, they have to trust you, you have to give them the autonomy to go out there and do their job. Everybody hears about micromanager people, and everyone says, "Oh, I'm not a micromanager," but the people that say that are usually micromanagers. And the problem is, you really can't be a micromanager in this role. There's too much going on. So really, just that trust and autonomy. And my other philosophy is work hard, play hard. I've kind of done that everything in my life. I mean, we all work hard, but you also have time to have fun, do fun games, team building activities with the group. And, I try to start a lot of meetings off with an icebreaker kind of game. There's a few different ones that I've adapted virtually from different things. So, have a little fun, ask about what they've done for the weekend, really just enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the people you're working with every day. Really makes, it so much easier to do your job and do it well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Got to have fun, man. You got to enjoy, your day job, and not just what you do, but who you do it with. So,
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, what about you?
I agree with everything Mark said. You have to have that mutual trust. You have to build those relationships. And, I've never felt like I'm the smartest person in the room on my team. So you have to understand what everyone brings to the table, and ensuring that you're giving people the space to create and be that person. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way, because I'm typically not the smartest person in the room. Just saying, I'm comfortable enough in my own
Right.
intellect to say that. But no, I appreciate that. So, but all right. So, why is culture so important? Let's talk about that piece of it on a much larger scale. And I guess what we'll do is let's go back to you, Rachel. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the importance of culture.
Sure. I mean, the culture you build starts with the minute that the team is in launch. And it's a question that I hear from candidates in every interview. What's the culture like of your team? What's the culture like of your organization? And it's kind of this nebulous word that you kind of have to put these attributes to. And the culture, I can honestly answer when I'm with candidates, is it's collaborative, it's trusting, it's honest, it's open, it's transparent, and all of those words go into a feeling that you have when you are somewhere. So I can honestly say to people who are wanting to come into the organization and come onto my team in particular, that we're collaborative. We focus on the employee experience, because there's a difference between employee experience and retention. If they're happy, they want to stay. And so if you can kind of proliferate that culture where you are encouraging development, encouraging trust and transparency, then it reaps benefits for your team and for the organization. There's less turnover, there's less strife, there's less disconcert, because people want to be where they are, and they bring their best selves when they can be happy in their role. So they spend a lot of time with us, as you know, and if we can make that time not dreadful and actually, productive and happy, then you're going to reap the rewards of having a positive culture. And it's just huge.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I totally agree. And, Mark, you and I were talking, and you actually came up with the, people first, business second idea. And you specifically talked about how important it was to invest in people. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, Tom. I mean, that's just always resonated with me through the different roles and positions I've had, from community pharmacist to now manager of an MSL team. The people that really stick out in my mind are the managers and directors that I've had, or people I reported to, that really cared about me. I'm an open book. I'll share anything, but it's hard. But so it's the little things that people did for me through my career, that showed that they were invested in me as a person, and not just a statistic or a number or a social security number on their payroll. I can think of some of the directors I've worked with recently is, just a simple text. Hey, thinking about you before you head into your presentation. Good luck. Knowing it's so little and easy to do, but that meant so much to me, that like, wow, he's got my back. He wishes he could be here, whatever it might be. So even it's like a simple text, or, the first thing you do when you get on a meeting with a one-on-one, I'm going to ask about how was your weekend, Tom? You told me you're going to that concert with your wife. How was it? And that's the kind of things that really, it shows that they're investing as you as a person. I like to know my people, they're, as much as they want to share with me, because I want to ask about that, because, we're all, this is a job, to be honest, and we can be replaced, but you can replace those relationships. Sometimes you build people, and they go even further than the work we do. If we end up leaving a position or anything, we keep that network as long as you have those good relationships with people. So, I really always try to find ways to connect with people, to do those little things. Maybe it's remember their birthday, or send them an e-card, or whatever it might be. but it's like the little things that really count to me. And I feel that, that's where it really comes in. The people come before, the work. The work's going to follow. If you have the people support and they know that you have their back and they enjoy working with you and everything, they're going to do much better. Like Rachel was mentioning before, if they know that you have their back and the culture is there of a great team, they're going to do amazing work for you. And that's kind of been the secret sauce that's been working for me and the teams I've been able to be a part of.
And I can say this because I've seen it. I know people on your team. I've seen you guys in action. I've seen you at conferences. I've seen your teammates, and I see the way you guys interact, and what you guys are doing really works. You're obviously showing great interest in other people, and that interest then becomes the investment. It's not just and this seems this seems easy, but it's not that easy because we're running so fast now. There's so many things that everybody's trying to do, and we're so busy all the time, meeting to meeting to meeting. But to be able to put that people first mentality where it's like genuinely curious, how was your weekend? How was that concert? I see you guys do this. I see the way your team interacts. And I think it's special. And I think I'm glad that we're doing this together because I know you guys well enough to be able to see it firsthand, which I think makes a big difference. And then Rachel, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, we're talking about, we started talking about from like a leadership perspective, but what about the MSLs? Like, how do the MSLs foster the culture, and what do you see the MSLs doing in their role to help to build up that team culture?
I mean, that's a great question. And it has to start with the people who are tenured, who have kind of already been ingrained in the culture and know what we bring to the table. For the people who are new to the team, they have to reflect that and show what it's like to come in. We've talked a little bit about during the interview process, we're going to talk about it a little bit later too, but ensuring that not only is this a good fit for that person, but are we a good fit for them? And are they going to, get into that culture? The liaisons on the team carry a huge part of this, fostering relationships with the others on the team, with others in their territories, others, internal and external stakeholders, proliferating that culture and really showing it and giving a feeling of connectedness, not only to the 2 or 3 people who are close to them on the team, but across the team and across geographies. I encourage people on my team to pick up the phone, make a phone call, get on Zoom, get on Teams. So much of communication is tone and body language. And a simple email can be, if it hits me the wrong day at the wrong time, I'm going to put a tone to it. But if I pick up the phone and say, hey, Tom, how's it going? Or if we get on Teams and I can kind of see how you're reacting, that's part of our culture, is that open communication. And if they can foster that and build that by picking up the phone and talking to their matrix partners and getting on Teams and really reflecting what it is and giving people a sense of connectedness just as a whole to our organization as well as to their teams.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. And, as you're talking about the MSL piece, I can't help but think about recognition and how important it is to recognize and provide some type of, whether it's programs or initiatives that can develop that team culture and excitement and recognition. So Mark, do you guys tell me how you guys handle that? Do you do anything on that side of the equation?
Yeah, Tom, and you're absolutely. It's such an important part. We work in silos, so we don't get all together and have big rah-rahs, parties and everything like that. So how can we kind of recognize each other or recognize people for great work? And one thing we do is we have a point system. It's a platform that you can get points, and you can actually redeem those points for merchandise. So what we do is, even peer-to-peer recognition. Our MSLs can recognize another peer through this platform. They can't give them points actually with monetary value, but as a manager, we can then submit for points, and then it gets into their account and everything. So, they're able to celebrate each other's successes, or if one helps out somebody else. So, I think that's a really neat system. But it's always important too to find out how your team likes to be recognized individually. So, some people like to be recognized and called out in public, and some people like it in private. So I'll use, just simple thank yous a lot. That goes a long way, to be honest. Like, thank you. I try to leave every Friday ending with a text to the whole team. Thank you for everything you do for us in the company. Great job. Enjoy your weekends. Again, it's that little things, but to go back to the kind of points and recognition system, one thing we're doing right now is, different companies have like put them ups or shout outs or high fives. And I've been part of things like we have High Five Fridays. So we can submit, and during our big call with our client on Fridays, they do High Five Fridays, and they'll call out different great initiatives that the team's doing and things like that. So they'll get a kind of a national call out. But we'll also use our small team meetings or my one-on-ones to kind of give individual recognition from just our team. So there's a lot of different ways, but I think it is very important. I mean, like simple even things like an e-card, celebrating milestones, anniversaries, birthdays, having, we had a little virtual birthday party for one of our teammates. So just little things like that, again, just recognize different life events or, milestones in their career. But it's definitely an important thing to do. You want to make people feel valued and appreciated during their job and the hard work they're doing.
Yeah. And as you're talking, for those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube and you're just listening, Rachel's nodding a lot. So Rachel, I want you to talk about this, because it sounds like this is an area, this recognition piece is something you're pretty passionate about.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone does their job. And like Mark said, they want to be recognized differently. Finding what resonates with each person and how they want to be recognized is so crucial. If you recognize a certain person on my team in front of the whole team, they would be horrified. So picking out what they need. We do Thank You Thursdays. You can get on the platform and just give a shout out to one or two or whoever you want to do. But recognition, people want to be recognized. You just need to know the venue in which to do it. But how good does it feel when you get an email from someone that says, great job? Or like Mark said, hey, thinking about you as you go on this presentation. Let me know how it goes. Being there, showing up, and just being available and doing those small things, a birthday text, like you said, something around the holidays, regardless of what they might celebrate. Just, hey, thinking of you, hope you have a good holiday season. It's just something that they know that you're thinking about them outside of their production in their role.
Yeah, I think we've evolved as a culture that's very tribal. I think we all want to have a sense of community. We want to be a part of something. Yeah. And we want to know that the other people that are in that community, that tribe that we're a part of, they have our back, mm-hmm. and that they have genuine interest in us. And the stuff that you guys are talking about, it's not hard. This isn't complicated stuff. It's just something that sometimes we need to continue to remind ourselves of. Yeah. Because we're going in a million different directions. But one of the things that's important, and Mark, you talked about this before, and Rachel, I want to hear from you. Is this the interpersonal piece? Right. Is getting individualized with people. So if you could talk about that a little bit, just breaking it down to the individual and how you like to connect on an interpersonal level with your team, because Mark talked about it a little bit, but I want to give you a chance to talk about that too.
Sure. And regardless of the size of the organization, whether it's 50 people or 50,000 people want to know they aren't alone. We work in an isolated environment. We're at our desks, in our homes. Some roles tend to be more virtual than others. Some are more face-to-face than others. But regardless, you are, as the liaison, you are primarily operating by yourself. So I want to encourage people that they're not alone, that they have their people. Find them. We help connect through mentorships. We help connect through opportunities to meet other teams within our organization in your particular geography. Mark's been a part of that as well, to hey, there's no water cooler, there's no lunchroom where you can go and get together. You need those opportunities. As you said, tribal, you want to have those people. You want to connect with someone. You want to know that I had a great engagement. I want to share it with someone, and who you can pick up the phone, or, oh my gosh, that could not have gone worse. I need to know what I could do better. Who can I call? So ensuring that that the people on my team have those. So I do weekly one-on-ones with people on my team. I do recognize birthdays and service anniversaries, and really encourage them. Like I said before, pick up the phone, get involved with other initiatives that are outside of our team. Find the people you connect with, and then foster and cultivate those relationships, so you know that you aren't alone in this whole thing.
Yeah, it's lonely in the field sometimes,
Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
It could be lonely out there. So this has been pretty easy, and it's been a very free-flowing conversation. I want to try to step this up a notch and make it a little more difficult. This question's gonna be a little harder.
Okay.
So Mark, and the reason this is harder is because this is something that's kind of nuanced, but when you're interviewing candidates, how do you assess the candidate for a good cultural fit within your organization?
Yeah, that is a great question, Tom. And I feel, Rachel and I are actually very fortunate. We have a, great recruiting team that does great screening and sends us great candidates to interview. But then when we do get to speak with them, and there, how there's different processes where, phone conversation versus presentation and everything. And most of it's virtual now. So it's hard to read people a little bit more in this virtual kind of world we are in. But I don't have a secret sauce to this really, but I kind of stick to my gut. When I'm having conversation with people, I really feel, I can read people pretty well and how they're going to fit with my personality and some of the other people and the culture that I'm trying to develop. And one thing I do use, and I guess it might be like a little trick, I want to hear them talk about team. Like we've been mentioning that word a lot. If you're throwing that word out and you're be able to provide examples, because, we're always asking, give me an example when blah, blah, blah. If they're saying, my team and I, we put this together, this was successful, those are the examples I want to hear. Not, I did this, I did that, I'm the greatest person in the world. Like, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear how you collaborate and how you collaborated with team members or managers or, cross-functional teams in the business. So they're the kind of the words I'm listening for when I'm interviewing people. And I frame a lot of my questions around that. I don't want to hear I know it's cliche. There's no I in team and things, but I don't want to hear all the I's. I want to say, I initiated this, but brought on these teammates, and collaboratively we accomplished that. So that's really what I like to hear, because again, I get back to, these are smart people. We can teach them the therapeutic area. We can teach them medications and drugs and vaccines or whatever we might be representing. But we can't really kind of make them fit the culture. You can't change people's personalities that easy. So again, I listen for those kind of keywords, how they give examples of collaboration and things. So again, I go by my gut a lot, but it's been pretty successful for me. So hopefully, knock on wood, it continues.
Well, it's tough. It's not easy because everybody's on their best behavior during an interview. Mm-hmm. So you don't always know what you're getting. So I think, to your point, I think it's really important to go with your gut, because you're not always getting the full picture from words. Mm-hmm. And even from, like, people can be they can practice really well, and they can get to a point where they do everything right, but you still don't totally get a full sense for the person and what their core values might be and how they might fit into the organization. There's a little bit of guesswork, and maybe it's guesswork and maybe it's a gut feeling. But I think that I definitely think that that's a big piece of the equation, because once you make that decision and you have somebody on the team, if it's the wrong decision, now it could create a bit of a cog in the wheel of the culture, which you kind of want to avoid, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Rachel, I want to get back to you, because you said you used a term in a conversation we had. You used the term psychological safety. So can you explain what that means and how that fits into this team culture concept?
I can give it my best shot, Tom. Psychological safety is paramount to me and to the success of my team. It means that people on the team trust me, I trust them, they feel safe to communicate openly about questions or process changes or anything without a fear of a negative backlash or a consequence. That it's a two-way street. I have to, as a leader, show vulnerability and transparency. If I want that back from my team, I have to model those behaviors. Hopefully, as we build our relationships, they start to model that to other people on the team as well. It's a two-way street. I can't always be asking for things from them. I have to give of myself as well. So to me, it's that you are collaborative, you have integrity, you show up when you're supposed to show up. You underpromise and overdeliver. You follow through on the things you say you're going to do so that the person on your team who you are leading will trust you. And then in turn, you can trust them. You have the space where you can freely share ideas. You can be innovative. It frees the people on my team to kind of think beyond their role and be creative, because if they're so worried about, they don't know which Rachel they're going to get today. If it's, hot or cold Rachel, they don't know, but hopefully it's medium Rachel all the time. And, they know that they are going to get the same person when they come to me. And it's not going to be, I'm going to snap or I'm going to be like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, and just kind of flake out about it. I'm going to listen. I'm going to provide feedback and get their feedback and their buy-in as well. Because I can sit here and talk to somebody all day long and say, do this, 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 and this. But if there's no buy-in from them, it's not really going to be effective on any level. Yeah. So having that psychological safety to trust, collaborate, communicate, all of that is what makes it such a privilege to be leading this team, because I feel like we've created it. It's not just me. I'm not the one saying this is a safe environment. I have to demonstrate that and repeatedly, because one little thing can have somebody say, she didn't really follow through on that. So then it's a constant, building up that trust and making those deposits into their accounts that, hey, I'm here, I'm going to follow through. I'm human. I might forget something once in a while, but just know that you can always come to me with questions. If you see a process that needs to be different, but we've always done it that way, please come to me and say, hey, I see it a different way. And we can have a discussion, but share your barriers, share your successes. And, I feel like that's the best way for a team to thrive.
Oh, it sounds awesome. I mean, I think it's probably got a lot to do with why you guys have developed such great teams, is because you have this, agree. I'm going to say open door policy. I like psychological safety better than open door policy, but I just think that the terms kind of go hand in hand, but it seems like you've just built this very open culture where you are connecting on a whole different level with and developing a level of trust that really goes beyond the normal relationship. So I think that's awesome. I appreciate you explaining that, because when you said it to me, I was like, am I supposed to know what this is? So Mark, I want to get back to, when you look at the dynamic between, the boss and the team, the supervisor and the MSLs, and you want to try to make these connections and get personal, but not too personal. So how do you navigate that, walk that line of getting to a personal, interpersonal level with your team, but not overstepping bounds or taking people out of their comfort zone? Because you said it before, everybody's different. So how do you enter into those conversations, or how do you go about getting to know people, but doing it in a cautious way?
Mm-hmm. And you're right, Tom, that sometimes it is a fine line you kind of have to walk, and you have to really feel people out. I mentioned earlier, I am an open book. And, one thing I did with my team when I was trying to meet them, when I came on to this role, was simple enough. I got this paper off the internet. I'm sure people have done it where it's like, tell me about yourself. I do it for my wife with my daughters every Mother's Day and everything. But it's one of these things that I played around with it and I made it more relevant to kind of our role. But I filled it out myself in our first team meeting. I shared things about myself with wife, two daughters, a golden doodle. So I went through and I kind of shared things. Simple enough: favorite color, favorite food, favorite drink. So they got to know me right away and saw kind of how I felt about sharing. And then they all had the opportunity to share their lists of things that they wanted to. And some people, again, were like open books like me and willing to share. Others were a little more reserved on what they shared and everything. And that was perfectly fine. But then as time went on and I developed trust and psychological safety with them, they opened up more. And, that's like probably my favorite part of the job is being on field rides where we're in cars for hours and hours and hours together. And we're just talking, just having conversation, learning about, their family, their friends, their life ambition, where they want to retire to someday. Like all kinds of things come up. So that paper also helps me do the little things too. If we do go out to dinner and I'm looking at the menu specials, I can say, I guarantee you're probably going to get that filet. And they're like, oh, how did you know I love filet? And it's those little things. And then I always make notes in my notebook under each person when I learn more things. If they share with me their grandchild's name that they, are really excited about that are playing in a tournament this weekend. So I can do those little things and ask for it because they shared it with me. So, it's a feeling that I kind of get from each person and individually how far I kind of take it with them. And I do want that psychological safety. I mean, I've had teammates or, people that reported to me come to me about, really serious personal situations sometimes. And, not really to ask my advice, but just more of a, hey, I'm telling you this because, it might interfere with some of my work moving forward or whatever, but just giving me a heads up, I might miss something or whatever. And it is nice to know that kind of stuff. So, just building that relationship, building that trust, and letting them take it to whatever they're comfortable with sharing is kind of how I handle it. But yeah, I love learning about people. I like people. So, very interesting. Some of the things that I learn about them as we, move forward and do these field rides and one-on-ones and things like that. And I'm sure Rachel has similar stories too, like that.
Well, you guys are both like naturals, like you're just natural people. You're a people person, people. Does that make sense? But you're natural at it. You could just see it. The reason that this episode I think is important is because not everybody doesn't come naturally for everyone. Some people, they struggle a little bit with, getting closer to people or making stronger connections or developing this muscle. But it seems like you guys totally have it. And I'm curious because I want to get to the one last thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys is, we talked a lot about culture and developing team, but what about professional development as it relates to the MSLs and how you can help them in their careers? Do you guys have any programs or any types of things you can share from a professional development standpoint?
I mean, one thing I really like to go over and have developed with my team is an individual development plan. Mm-hmm. And we do have that as a company that we review with them quarterly. And because it is nice to see their interests, we want to set them. I mean, I know every manager in our company and probably a lot around the industry want to set our people up for success moving forward. This might not be their end role. They might be looking for, trying to get to a different position in the company or anything. And I want to be a part of that. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, hey, you might be my boss someday. So, I'm going to be nice to you. But you never know what the future is going to bring. It is a small world and especially smaller in industry, but knowing what their passion is, where they want to go and try to set them up, if they're really in the IT, if something comes up with our company that they need an IT advisory board from Field Medical, guess what? I know that Tom talked to me about that, and I'm going to put Tom's name forward. So setting them up to be successful is really the name of the game. So I love, reviewing the IDPs with them, and putting them in good positions moving forward. Rachel, I don't know if there's other ways that you kind of assess that, but.
Yeah, I mean, an echo to the IDP for sure, because that really gives you a peek behind the curtain of what that person wants. You might see it differently. You might think, oh, well, Mark would be great at this, but Mark doesn't want to do that. So you have to really be in tune with what each individual contributor wants to do. There's people on my team who have, have designs on leadership. And so we've done book reviews together where we've read them and discussed them during our one-on-ones, and how does this apply to your role now, and how would it apply in the future, and what would you do, and potentially some case studies for when you're in leadership, how does this look, and how would you react, because whatever mistakes I've made, those are opportunities to learn for people who want to evolve into that role. But the IDPs, reading books with them, recommending podcasts for sure. These are little sound bites you can listen to that you can learn and develop. And then we have, modules that you can get involved with as well. And knowing what each person wants to do, like you said, with the tech, and then having that keen ear for those opportunities when they arise, so that you're not just tuned out on a meeting and not really listening when they say, we are getting together a DE&I team. Do you have anyone who would be interested? And you're like, automatically, that there is someone on your team who has brought that up and is passionate and wants to be in that. So facilitating those opportunities, and again, setting them up for success, because I learned this from a leader a long time ago. Their success is my success. And I want to take them as far as they can go. And I hope that someday they're my leader. I mean, that would be amazing. So.
Well, you guys are certainly, it's going to happen. You guys are developing people, and you're developing culture, and you're developing team. And I thank you guys for coming on to talk about this. I think it's a really important topic. You guys crushed it. But more importantly, I thank you guys for being such awesome leaders, because I see it. I see the way people react to you, and you guys are fun to be around. And I could see why your culture is so special.
Well, thanks for having us again, Tom. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, guys, don't forget to check out syneoshealth.com. And thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate you all. Thanks for sharing it. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe so that you don't miss an episode in the future. And feel free to leave a rating or a review or a comment. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you soon.